Welcome back to Meaningful Whispers. Tonight you slip into the quiet cradle of the Pacific, where the air hums faintly with salt, and the endless stretch of water seems to breathe with its own pulse. You can almost hear the faint ticking of time, not a clock on your wall, but the rhythm of waves brushing against an unseen shore. The smell of old wood lingers, as if 1,000 canoes have just passed, leaving whispers behind. Above you, the night sky blooms with stars so bright they almost feel close enough to pluck like fruit. And yes, your ego might not make it through unscathed, because as you stare into this celestial infinity, you realize how small you are against the vastness of ocean and sky. So before we dive in, tap that like button and subscribe to Syphoria, only if these midnight mind voyages truly speak to you. And if you're here, quietly awake while the world sleeps, tell me your location and the time on your clock. Let's see how far across the map of consciousness we stretch tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You drift further into the darkness, and the water stretches wider, a mirror reflecting not just stars but memory itself. In this ancient expanse, long before compasses or satellites, the Maori and other Polynesian navigators looked up and saw something the rest of the world had forgotten. The ocean was not empty. It was a map. Every star, every subtle shift in the wind, every curve of a wave held meaning. You feel the first breath of that realization in your chest, slow and deep. Let your shoulders loosen. Inhale through your nose. Exhale softly through parted lips. Imagine yourself sitting on a cool beach, the sand beneath you slightly damp from the evening tide. Above, the constellations of the southern hemisphere gleam, patterns unknown to northern eyes. Te Kahui o Matariki, the cluster some call the Pleiades, rising like a soft whisper of the new year. Mainstream historians often speak of the age of exploration as if it began with European ships. But here in the Pacific, a different story beats quietly. Polynesian wayfinders had been voyaging thousands of miles, open ocean crossings longer than anything in Europe at that time, using nothing but the natural world. No written maps, no metal instruments, just a living memory of the sky. And there's something unusual you notice. The navigators didn't just memorize fixed points. They memorized relationships between a star and the swell of the sea, between the angle of moonlight and the faint direction of prevailing winds. It was like holding a puzzle in your mind that rearranged itself every night, and somehow you always knew where home was. Historians still argue whether all voyages were planned with exact intent or if some were serendipitous, guided by drift and chance. Some suggest migration was purposeful, while others say it was survival mixed with curiosity, and maybe both are true. The ambiguity itself feels like a wave, slipping between certainty and mystery. You remember a phrase from Nietzsche, soft as a whisper in the dark, "We have art, so we shall not die of truth." These star maps were art, in a way, ephemeral, recited in chants, passed from elder to apprentice like sacred poems. As you breathe, feel the coolness of an imagined ocean breeze brushing your cheeks. It's soft but steady. Notice the weight of your eyelids. With each blink, the stars above seem to shift just slightly, painting paths across the black canvas of night. You're not on land anymore. You're already floating with the early voyagers, those who dared to leave one island, believing another waited beyond the horizon. And here's a small, almost playful thought. You realize that even in the middle of this profound quiet, someone on one of those canoes probably made a light joke, perhaps about how the ocean always looks the same no matter which way you stare, or how the stars are like nosy ancestors watching every move. A soft chuckle escapes your lips. And then the silence folds back in, deeper than before. In this silence, you sense the beginnings of a story not written in books, but carved in memory and tide. Tonight, you will carry that story. You will feel the pulse of ancient canoes slicing through the Pacific, guided by the same stars you can still see if you step outside and look up. So, rest here for a moment. Breathe. Feel your rib cage expand gently. Listen to the hum of the fan, or maybe it's the distant echo of waves you've never sailed. This is where it begins, because from these whispers of ancient horizons, entire migrations were born. Lives carried across water as endless as the sky, guided by trust in patterns too vast for most minds to hold. And you're about to follow. You float now, somewhere between wakefulness and a quiet trance. As the first canoe drifts from the safety of the shore, the sea stretches in every direction, an endless blue that swallows both fear and wonder. You are not a passenger, you are the navigator. Your mind holds the map, though it is not on parchment. It lives in the memory of constellations, the breath of winds, the way the ocean swells beneath you like the slow inhale of some giant sleeping creature. The Maori star maps are not really maps in the way you think of them. They are chants, songs, sequences of names recited in rhythm until the sound itself becomes a compass. You murmur them softly under your breath. Tautoru, Rehua, Takurua. The names echo like prayer, each syllable tied to a star that tells you a direction. The horizon is no longer just an empty line. It is alive, marked by rising and setting points, by the soft glow of dawn bending the sky. Take a slow, deep breath. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. Feel your chest soften with the release. Imagine the steady rocking of the canoe beneath you. Each shift a subtle reminder that you are not alone. Around you, crewmates paddle in silence, trusting your eyes and your memory. They trust the stars. They trust the sea. And here is a fact that surprises many. Wayfinding wasn't just about looking up. Navigators read the texture of the waves. They could feel, even with closed eyes, the rhythm of swells generated by distant islands beyond sight. They sensed how 2 wave patterns cross like threads of an invisible net. You pause and try to feel it yourself. The faint tilt of the canoe, the whisper of wind across your cheeks, the distant rumble of an unseen reef breaking waves. There's an unusual anecdote told about one legendary navigator, Tupaya, who traveled with Captain Cook centuries later. It's said he could look at the horizon and name more than 70 islands without a single map. Cook's crew thought it was magic, but it was simply a different way of knowing, a memory etched not in books, but in the body itself. Historians still argue how much of this knowledge was purely observational and how much was tied to spiritual belief. Was it science, or was it the guidance of ancestors in the sky? Maybe both. Maybe the line between the two was never meant to be sharp. In your mind drifts a whisper from Carl Jung. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. The Polynesian navigator did both. He dreamed with the stars and he awakened with the sea. You notice your own breath again. It's slower now. The air feels cooler around your nostrils as you inhale. Your shoulders are loose, heavy like wet sand. You are gliding through darkness, but it doesn't feel lonely. Above you, the Milky Way is a silver path, and every star is a step. Even the moon plays a role here. When it wanes, the sky becomes more generous with its stars. When it waxes, the ocean reflects its glow, showing hidden currents. You learn to see not just the bright points, but the dark patches between them. In some traditions, the dark rift in the Milky Way is seen as a great celestial canoe itself, carrying ancestors across the heavens. There's a soft humor in all this. How humans spent centuries inventing complex tools, only to discover that the universe had already drawn the map. Maybe the stars chuckled too, watching us struggle with compasses when all we needed was patience and open eyes. You let the idea settle. Feel the weight of time collapsing. These ancient voyagers didn't think of themselves as primitive. They thought of themselves as connected. To leave one island wasn't an escape, it was an expansion. A trust that somewhere beyond the endless horizon, another home awaited. Your canoe cuts through the water with almost no sound. Each paddle stroke matches the rhythm of your heartbeat. You glance at the horizon and find the star compass, the mental framework of the sky. It tells you not just where you are, but where you're going, even in a vast ocean with no landmarks. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the darkness. No modern lights, just the stars. You could see thousands more than you do now in a city sky. They are so bright, they cast faint shadows on the deck of your canoe. That's the map. That's all you need. And maybe deep down, you realize you already carry such a map too. Not of stars, but of memory, of intuition, of the quiet ways you find your way even when logic fails. The Polynesian navigator trusted the sky. Who or what do you trust? The question lingers like the echo of a wave fading into the night. The canoe glides deeper into the ocean, and with it, you drift deeper into the inner stillness of the journey. There is no turning back now. The island behind you has faded into memory, swallowed by the horizon. Ahead is only the unknown, yet strangely, you do not feel lost. You feel guided, as if some unseen thread connects you to a place you have never seen, but somehow already know. This is the realm of Waka Hurua, the great double-hulled canoes that carried entire families across thousands of miles. They were not flimsy vessels. They were living symbols of community, hope, and daring curiosity. Each canoe was built with precision, lashed together with fiber ropes that flexed with the waves rather than snapping like rigid nails. You run your fingers along the imaginary rope now, feeling its texture, its warmth. It holds more than wood together, it holds faith. Take a slow breath. Feel your ribs expand like sails filling with wind. Hold. Exhale gently, letting the breath sink you deeper into calm. Imagine the sea air cool on your lips, the faint taste of salt lingering as you breathe out. There is a detail from history worth pausing on. The Maori and other Polynesian navigators did not rely on trial and error. Their journeys were intentional. Oral traditions preserved detailed knowledge of ocean currents, star paths, and seasonal winds for generations. Some of these voyages were so precise that they could predict when certain islands would appear beyond the horizon days before they became visible. And yet, there's a story that complicates this neat picture. In one oral legend, a navigator claimed he was led not just by the stars, but by the spirits of birds. Frigate birds, terns, and petrels circled the canoe at dawn, guiding him toward land. Was it coincidence? A trick of hunger and exhaustion? Or perhaps nature itself was whispering? Scholars still debate whether these stories were metaphorical or literal. Maybe it doesn't matter. Sometimes meaning lives in the space between. You hear a faint laugh in your mind, soft and wry. Nietzsche once said, "There is more wisdom in your body than in your deepest philosophy." Perhaps the navigator's body knew what the mind could not fully explain. His senses were so attuned to the world that the flight of a bird, the smell of seaweed, or the color of the sunset held messages hidden to ordinary eyes. The ocean becomes your mirror. As you watch its endless movement, you notice the same motion within your own thoughts, rising, cresting, dissolving. Just as the navigator trusts the swell, you trust the rhythm of your breath. Feel it now. Inhale slowly, as if drawing in the distant horizon. Exhale as though you're releasing the weight of everything you thought you needed to know. And here, you remember an unusual anecdote from a later Polynesian navigator, Maupilug of Micronesia, who taught modern sailors the ancient art. He once blindfolded himself and still pointed toward land correctly, guided only by the feeling of the waves beneath his canoe. His students were stunned, but for Mao it was simple. The sea always speaks. You just have to listen. The night deepens. Stars blur slightly in your vision, not because you're tired, but because your focus softens. You are no longer naming constellations. You're feeling their positions, like a pulse in the sky. The Maori star map is less a diagram and more a living conversation. Each rising star tells you east. Each setting star whispers west. The space between stars holds secrets too. You feel like you're drifting in a great cosmic canoe, crossing not just the ocean, but the fabric of time. There's a gentle humor here. Imagine explaining this to a modern GPS user. No, you don't need satellites. You are the satellite. Perhaps the navigator would smile, shake his head, and say nothing. Some things can't be explained. They must be experienced. And experience has its own kind of memory. The ancestors who first made these voyages passed down more than facts. They passed down ways of seeing. The Maori call this wakapapa, a lineage that connects land, sea, sky, and people. When you navigate, you're not just moving your canoe. You're moving within a network of relationships. The stars are not cold points of light. They are elders, guides, reminders of home. Feel that connection now. Your body relaxes into it. Shoulders soften. Your breath becomes slow and wide, like the ocean itself. Each exhale feels like a wave slipping gently back into the sea. And perhaps you sense this. You are not just on the journey. You are the journey. The canoe is your body. The ocean is your mind. The stars are your memory. And beyond all of it lies a silence so vast it could cradle worlds. In that silence, you remember something almost forgotten. That navigation was never just about reaching a place. It was about returning to yourself. The sky tilts slightly as you look up again. A new constellation is rising. It tells you the next course. It tells you that even in the middle of nowhere, you are exactly where you need to be. The ocean deepens in color as you press on. It is no longer just blue. It is a shifting tapestry of shadow and light. You can almost hear it hum, a low vibration beneath the surface, like the breath of something ancient. The canoe rocks gently, a cradle on an endless sea. You find yourself leaning into its rhythm, your body syncing with the pulse of the waves. Here, the Maori wayfinders teach you something subtle. The sea is not an obstacle, but a language. Each swell speaks. A long, slow wave might tell you you're approaching an island, its shape disturbing the current. A choppier rhythm might reveal open ocean. The water remembers what lies beneath it, and if you listen carefully, it will whisper the truth. Take another slow breath now. Let it fall deep into your belly. Imagine it rippling outward like concentric rings on still water. Hold for a moment, then exhale, letting your body feel a little lighter, as if you too are floating. You recall a historical fact. These navigators memorized hundreds of kavinga, or star lines, routes marked by the sequence in which certain stars rose and set. They could recite these pathways like poetry, never written down but etched into memory through chants and storytelling. For generations, these maps lived not on parchment, but within living minds. But there's an odd legend that complicates the neatness of this system. In one story, a navigator followed a path told to him in a dream. He woke, built a canoe, and sailed a direction no one had dared. Against all doubt, he found land exactly where the dream had said it would be. Was it chance? Intuition? Or was the dream itself another form of navigation, just as real as any star? Scholars argue whether these accounts were symbolic visions or literal instructions from the ancestors. Jung once mused, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." Perhaps the navigator's dream was both, looking inward to find the map written on his own unconscious, which mirrored the cosmos. You notice the air now. It feels cooler, more damp with salt. There's a faint taste of brine on your tongue, and with it comes a sense of time slowing down. You are no longer rushing. The journey is not about speed, it is about arriving slowly enough to notice the world unfold. There's a modern anecdote that comes to mind, something almost humorous. When modern sailors try to recreate Polynesian voyages with GPS trackers as a safety backup, they were often slower than traditional navigators. Why? Because the ancient method didn't involve second-guessing. You either trusted the signs or you didn't sail. Imagine fumbling with a digital screen while the ocean simply tells you, this is the way. The night deepens even more. The stars overhead grow sharper, so bright they almost hurt your eyes. The Milky Way is no longer just a streak of white. It is a pathway itself, stretching from one horizon to the other. In Maori tradition, it is called Te Akaroa, the long fish. To look at it is to see not just beauty, but direction. Feel the stillness in your body. Notice the tiny sway in your spine, as if you too are a canoe riding a gentle wave. Your breath is soft now, so soft it almost disappears. And in that softness, you recall a curious detail about the canoes themselves. They were designed not for control, but for harmony. The steering paddle didn't fight the water, it glided with it. The sail didn't demand wind, it listened for it. The canoe was an extension of nature, not a defiance of it. Perhaps that's why the voyagers trusted it, the way you trust your own heartbeat even without thinking. You smile faintly, almost laughing at how different this feels from modern travel. No engines, no loud announcements, no rigid schedules. Just a canoe, a crew, the stars, and the knowing that the ocean will eventually give you what you need. And slowly you begin to sense something else. The stars are not just above you, they are around you. They reflect in the sea so clearly that it feels like you are sailing through the middle of the cosmos itself. You lose track of what's sky and what's water. You are simply surrounded. In this moment, the boundaries dissolve. The navigator is not separate from the canoe. The canoe is not separate from the sea. The sea is not separate from the stars. And the stars are not separate from you. Breathe into that. Feel your chest expand like a sail catching wind. Hold for a heartbeat. Release slowly, letting the wave of your breath carry you even deeper into quiet. And then, as if summoned by your calm, a single bright star appears low on the horizon. It is different from the others, steadier, warmer. You know without knowing why that this star means land is near. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. The ancestors left these signs for you, etched not in stone, but in the living sky. And you realize something simple but profound. You are never truly lost because you are always held by memory, by tradition, by the endless dialogue between earth and sky. The canoe keeps gliding, the night keeps singing, and you keep breathing deeply, easily, like someone who already knows the way. The night stretches thinner now, softer around the edges. You can sense dawn waiting just beyond the horizon, though it hasn't yet revealed itself. The stars remain your only companions, shimmering like quiet confidants above and below you. You hear nothing but the rhythmic lap of the sea against the canoe's hull, a sound that feels older than time itself. You shift slightly, aware of your body and its weight. Your shoulders relax, almost melting into the air. Take a slow breath now. Inhale through your nose, let it sink deep into your belly. Hold for a gentle pause, then exhale through your mouth as though releasing a long-forgotten worry. There it goes, dissolving into the salt-scented night. Here in this suspended moment, the memory of how the Maori mapped their world expands. They didn't just read the stars. They memorized the rhythm of the swells, the flight paths of seabirds, the smell of the wind as it carried distant hints of vegetation or volcanic earth. Their maps were not static lines, but living patterns woven from every sensory detail. There is an intriguing ambiguity historians still puzzle over. Were these methods purely empirical, passed through centuries of careful observation, or did they carry an element of spiritual communion, an intuition that surpassed what could be measured? One early European visitor claimed Maori navigators could sense the presence of islands, like a bird knows the nest. Was that just poetic exaggeration? Or did these wayfinders access a layer of awareness that most of us have lost? Nietzsche once whispered into the abyss of thought, "We have art, so we shall not perish of truth." Perhaps navigation, too, was an art, a way of engaging with the world not just to survive, but to belong. As the canoe drifts forward, your senses sharpen. You hear faint bird cries where there should be none in the middle of the ocean. The Polynesian voyagers believed such calls were messengers. Birds did not stray far from land. The subtle arc of their flight traced invisible paths back to safety. You wonder, is this an omen, a promise, or simply nature doing what it has always done? There is a quiet anecdote of a navigator who, nearing exhaustion, lay down in the hull of his canoe. Half asleep, he listened to the pattern of the waves hitting the side. In his dreamlike state, he realized the waves were shifting, shorter intervals, a gentler impact. He awoke and steered toward where the water felt lighter. By morning, an island rose on the horizon. He claimed he could hear the land before he could see it. Pause and feel your own heartbeat now. It beats in waves too, doesn't it? A steady rhythm, your internal ocean. Maybe you could also sense the unseen if you listen long enough. There is a faint smile on your lips. You remember an almost humorous modern parallel. When NASA engineers studied Polynesian navigation techniques, they found it echoed their own star mapping for space travel. Different seas, same instincts. Isn't it ironic? Humanity looks up at the stars to explore the cosmos, but ancient sailors use them to find home. And so, the canoe continues gliding. You begin to see subtle changes in the sky. One star fades, then another, signaling that dawn is approaching. But with dawn comes a different challenge. Without the stars, how do you steer? The answer is simple, yet profound: by memory. By the imprint of the sky that lingers in your mind even after the light erases it. Take another slow breath. Imagine holding the map of the stars in your chest. Feel it glowing faintly there, even with your eyes closed. It is still with you. You think again of the Maori name for the Milky Way, Te Ikaroa, the long fish. To them, the sky was alive, a being you could converse with, a presence that guided but also listened. It wasn't about conquering nature. It was about entering into a relationship with it. You are reminded of something you've heard before. To navigate well is to be humble, because the sea does not tolerate arrogance. There is a gentle rocking now. You feel it deep in your bones and it lulls you. In that softness, you realize that the canoe is more than transport. It is a sanctuary. Its curved wooden arms hold you like a cradle, carrying you through both water and silence. And maybe, just maybe, you begin to grasp what the Maori understood so deeply. The journey itself is the destination. To sail under stars is to already arrive in a kind of peace. You let that thought settle like a feather falling onto still water. The horizon glows faintly now, a thin line of silver. Land is still nowhere in sight, but the crew stirs with quiet confidence. They trust what they know. They trust what can't always be seen. And you feel that trust seep into you too, soft and unshakable. Breathe once more. Hold it, like holding the promise of arrival. Then exhale into the open air, feeling just a little more spacious inside yourself. The ocean whispers one more secret. You are not separate from the journey. You are the journey. The stars map not just the sky, but your own mind, charting the endless routes back to yourself. The dawn fully arrives now, brushing the sky with pale gold and muted rose. The stars fade one by one, slipping quietly out of sight like actors leaving a stage. The sea reflects this gentle shift, soft ripples catching threads of light. You feel the air change, warmer, carrying a whisper of land you still cannot see. Take a slow inhale, savoring this in-between hour. Hold it lightly in your chest, then exhale as if releasing a thought you no longer need. You notice how even breathing feels like navigation, drawing in what is around you, letting go of what no longer serves you. The Maori navigators called this part of the voyage the listening time. Without stars, you rely on memory, on rhythm, on the subtle tilt of swells beneath the canoe. There's a strange stillness that comes with this, a moment when you trust not in what you see, but in what you know. Historians still debate how precise these journeys really were. Some argue they must have been accidental, that it was impossible to cross thousands of miles of ocean with nothing but stars and instinct. Yet the oral histories tell of deliberate voyages, generations of training, maps etched not on paper but into minds. How do you measure something like that? Maybe you can't. Maybe certainty is a luxury modern thinking demands, but the ocean never offers. You remember a saying attributed to Carl Jung: "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." It feels fitting here. These wayfinders were both dreamers and awake. They gazed outward at the cosmos, but also inward, trusting their inner map as much as the sky above. There's an odd anecdote told about an elder navigator who was asked how he could possibly guide a canoe across empty seas. He simply pointed to his heart and said, "The stars live here." Perhaps that was his only answer. Perhaps it was enough. As the sun climbs, you notice the seabirds again, this time more of them, circling with purpose. Their calls are sharper now, confident, guiding. Polynesian sailors knew these signs intimately. Different birds meant different distances. The long-winged frigate birds signaled land was still far, while the smaller terns and noddies meant the shore was close enough to reach before dark. You watch the crew murmur among themselves, eyes scanning not the horizon but the sky. Their movements are calm, unhurried. They are reading a language most have forgotten, and you begin to realize something profound. This way of navigating is not about domination, it is about relationship. You don't force the sea to reveal its secrets. You listen until it chooses to share. Take another breath. Imagine the horizon inside your own body, wide open, endless. Feel how your shoulders loosen, how your jaw unclenches. You can almost taste the faint scent of land on the breeze now. Green and earthy, subtle but undeniable. A small joke crosses your mind, light and fleeting. Modern travelers panic when their phone loses GPS. Yet here were people who trusted clouds, birds, and the feeling of the ocean on their skin. Who's really more lost? The canoe glides onward, and suddenly the light shifts again. There, just a smudge at first, then clearer, a shape breaking the endless blue. Land. An island rises slowly from the edge of the world, like a dream revealing itself. The crew doesn't cheer, they simply nod, as if this was never in doubt. And in that quiet nod, you understand the essence of it all. Navigation isn't only about reaching a place. It's about arriving in yourself, patient, attuned, humbled. You feel it now, that quiet strength of knowing without needing to see. This is the lesson of the Maori star maps. They were not mere coordinates, but a way of remembering your place in the universe. The stars were not distant lights, but companions, teachers, mirrors. They guided you not only across oceans, but through the vastness of your own being. Pause here and breathe once more. Slow, soft, like the ocean itself. Feel the steadiness beneath the movement. You think of how everything returns in cycles. The stars vanish at dawn, yet they will return tonight. The voyage ends on this island, yet another will begin. There is no final arrival, only the next journey. As you step onto the imagined shore in your mind, you carry the silence of the sea with you. The canoe rests, the crew disembarks, and the stars, though hidden, are still present within you. They are always there, waiting to be read. The ocean whispers one last truth. You are both traveler and map. And with that thought, the story begins to fold gently into itself, like a sail being lowered after a long voyage. And now, as you rest in this quiet space, let the journey settle into your body. You have sailed across empty oceans, guided by stars that were never truly far away. You have listened to the rhythm of waves and the unspoken language of birds. You have trusted memory over sight, instinct over doubt. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the vast Pacific at night, the soft glow of the Milky Way, the gentle hum of the sea. Feel the cradle of the canoe beneath you, rocking you into calmness. Imagine the constellations lingering in your mind like soft lanterns, still guiding you even as you drift toward sleep. Take a deep breath now, and on the exhale, let go of everything you've been carrying. Feel how your body grows lighter, like a vessel unburdened. Let your thoughts ripple outward like waves, growing softer, fainter, until only stillness remains. The Maori wayfinders understood something timeless, that we are never truly lost when we learn to listen. Even in the darkest night, there is always a point of light, sometimes in the sky, sometimes within ourselves. So rest now. Let the story fade into the gentle hum of your room. Know that the stars you imagined are still above you, constant and patient. Know that the journey continues, even in dreams. And when you wake, perhaps you will feel just a little more attuned, aware that even in the busiest day, the quiet map of the universe still lives within you. Sleep well, traveler.